Hello. Hello, and welcome to the series of Understanding Your ICF Credentials. And my name is Prosperity. I'm an ICF certified PCC coach. I am an innermost shift head coach, and I love to coach and to help people to get to the bottom of what coaching is and what is their problem also when they're facing when they're coaching people. So let's talk about ethics. What is ethics actually? What does it mean to be uh, following or to be applying the ICF coaching standards, ICF ethical standards in coaching? The first competency of ICF itself is demonstrates ethical practices. And most of the coaches, when I talk to them, when they enroll in the course, or when we're just talking amongst coaches, we consider ourselves a very very ethical people, and which is true. And I hope all the coaches are very ethical people. At the same time, ICF lays a lot of emphasis in it as well to demonstrate ethical practices. And there is a set of standards that says ICF ethical standards that every coach is expected to follow so that they are actually living by this competency. So what is these ICF ethical standards? Well, ICF ethical standards is actually divided into four parts. The first is responsibility to clients. Then there is responsibility to practice and performance. Then there is responsibility to profession and responsibility to society. And it all the four sections put together is actually following the ICF ethical standards. And a lot of times we focus a whole lot on the responsibility to client, which is actually the crux, or which becomes the core of it, at least according to me. Uh, because this is the relationship between the coach and the client is actually paramount in coaching. So, and one of the first things that it is about is confidentiality, which as a coach, we are all expected to maintain 100% confidentiality of what the client is saying, 100% confidentiality of what the client is expressing and letting us know during the coaching sessions. And this is a whole lot to do with the fact that whether it is organization coaching or somebody else is sponsoring, for example, a parent is sponsoring the coaching for their children, or the boss is organizing the sponsoring the coaching for the subordinate, the organization, the HR is involved, the CEO is involved, and there are some times when a whole lot of people are involved in the coaching. At that point of time, and this is a question a lot of coaches ask, what do you do in this situation? Because the HR or the boss or the manager or the CEO, they want to know what is it exactly that the client is saying, what is it that the client is going through in these circumstances, and how do you actually move forward with that? Well, ICF has a very beautiful definition for it. It says that you maintain the strictest level of confidentiality with all parties agreed upon, which means the client, of course, the sponsor, the HR, or anyone else who is involved, the parent, if the parent is involved. And the coach makes sure that the coach is aware of and agrees to comply with all the applicable laws that pertain to personal data and communication. It means that prior to starting the coaching, the coach and all the parties involved have a clear understanding how the information will be exchanged among all parties involved, right? So whatever the client is saying during the coaching session, it remains with the client. It remains between the coach and the client unless and until it has been strictly and clearly noted down as to what will be shared and what will not be shared. If it's about performance, if it's about any kind of structural issue, if it has been agreed upon, this is not going to be shared, whatever the client is saying, then it will not be shared. The client, of course, is free to share whatever they want, go ahead and share whatever they want. But as a coach, the coaches cannot share it ethically unless and until it has been agreed upon between all the parties. And then there's another very beautiful thing. It says that you are, while keeping everything confidential, it's also to know for the coach and as to when it is on the boundary of illegal, or when the client is in the is in an imminent or likely risk of danger to self or to others. And that is when it is also ethically the moral responsibility of the coach to inform it to the appropriate authorities, right? And not to just keep it with themselves. So in case there is something illegal, there is some danger, or take a call, when is it actually required to be told? And this again is to be made clear before the coaching starts, that in case something like this is there, I will be diverging and I will not be able to maintain 100% confidentiality in this case, right? So while we are actually talking about between the coach and the client, of course, things like when the coaching session is going to be scheduled, what is the financial terms, what are the logistics terms, all that has to be part of the agreement. But all this also needs to be part of the agreement and made very clear to the client as well. And when you're working as an internal coach, if some of the coaches do work as an internal coach as well within the organization, then there is always a conflict of interest that can arise. Do you keep the organization first, or do you keep your client first? As an internal coach, of course, the HR or the CEO would want to know more, and they also have a much higher hold on the coach as well. In this case, how do you manage this relationship between the two, between being an internal coach to your boss in this case, and to the client? And this again has to be made clear via an agreement, by an ongoing dialogue. And it cannot be only one time. It's actually several number of times that this keeps continuous dialogue is happening, right? It also talks about how do you actually store the information? How do you keep your records? Are you keeping a record in a place? Because the client is sharing so much. And as coaches, we also keep records, because if we have even, say, let's only 10 clients, we will not be able to remember what the first client said in the first coaching session after the sixth or the seventh session. It's absolutely impossible to remember every word that the client said. So it's very, very important for us to keep records of the coach, what the coach said, or what the client said, or the client's progress, and what the client wants. What is the agenda that they're working on? What are the values that is emerging of the client? While we have to keep record as a coach of all this, but how are we actually keeping this record? Are we being as a coach, are we being cautious enough to keep the record in a manner that not every that it doesn't come in the hands of everyone? Even if it's an electronic record, are we making sure that it is in a format that our subordinates or our somebody who's helping us organize, they do not come to know what the record says? Are we deleting the records from time to time? So it's our responsibility also to maintain a record in a manner that it's it's not easily, or it's not at all accessible to somebody, right? And in case there is a shift in the value of between the coach and the client, if there is something that the client is saying that um, there is a value conflict in between the coaching session, the the client's values and the coach's value do not match together, what does the coach actually do? Does the coach uh, ask the client to explain the value? Does the coach take the moral high ground in the client? Absolutely no. It is for the coach to work upon themselves, and it's actually a responsibility to the practice and the performance for the coach to continuously work upon themselves. In case there is a conflict with the client, at that point of time, it is important that the coach themselves seek help from a professional uh, on how to continue with working with this client. This could mean coaching supervision sessions. This could mean coaching sessions of their own as well. And if you have seen those, the interviews of MCC coaches that Alpha Stars has had, all the MCC coaches lay a lot of emphasis on coaching supervision, which means even MCC coaches themselves take a lot of coaching supervision, because at times there is a conflict, there is something that the client has said, they want to continuously improve themselves. So there's a lot of emphasis on that as well. And as a profession, it's actually about continuously working on yourself as well. And this is one of the ways to do it, right? Uh, Also uh, to the fact that in case There could be a value conflict with the client. There could also be a value conflict in case there are multiple parties involved. So within an organization, if the coach is coaching the marketing person, the logistics person, the sales person, the HR person, the research person, and the coach is coaching all these people from different departments, or within the same department, the coach is coaching a lot of people. There might be a there might be information that different entities share with this person, with the coach, and it is for the coach to hold themselves in presence and not to judge all the parties or not to share the information with the various parties altogether. And how to do this being is also increasing the presence of the coach at every given point of time, being sensitive to what each client has said, keeping the mind clear and not letting the mind, the information go parallelly haywire. That is very, very important for the coach. And all this again in my opinion requires coaching supervision as well, or coaching by the coach themselves, because the coach themselves need to be grounded at all points of time, right? So all this actually is something which needs to be kept in mind when the coach is following the ICF ethical standards or demonstrates ethical practices. It's almost I think 90% of the time, I would say, roughly, it's only the coach who can know that whether they are actually keeping all this confidential, or following all the ethical standards or not. uh, but if you are within the organization, or if you're coaching two organizations which are in conflict with each other, how do you actually manage that? Sometimes it's actually also requires to let go of a coaching client. It actually requires you to choose which client, or will it be better for you to serve one client with full integrity and with full authenticity if you refer one client to somebody else and you continue only with one client? If there is a value conflict, and there's a deep value conflict with a client that you have, the client's values and your value as a coach do not match at all, it requires you to actually reflect upon yourself whether you need to let go of this client as well. So there is a decision point as well, whether you can actually continue coaching this client. And this also depends the on how mature in your path as a coach you are. Sometimes it's just better to let go and have the client says that, okay, I will not be able to serve you beyond this point, and I refer you to somebody else. Reference to another individual as a coach or any other profession is also important. If the coach is working with a client and the client is actually coming up, it becomes very, very evident in some cases during the relationship that this client needs some any other method of reaching to a solution other than coaching. This could be therapy, this could be mentoring, this could be advising, this could be anything else, right? This could be training. But coaching is not the solution for this particular client. And in this case, what do you do? In this case, again, what is required by the coach to do is to refer this particular individual, this client, to the appropriate professional, right? Talk to the client, make the client understand, and refer the person to the another professional. And for this reason, as coaches, we often have a body of coaches along with us. We often have uh, we often have people in similar professions who can actually take on another client of ours as well, right? In case we gain monetarily from such a person. Let's say we have a tie up with a therapist, that every therapist that we refer to the therapist, sorry, every client we refer to the therapist will get some financial or some kind of a benefit in any way. This also needs to be ethically told to our client that I am referring you to XYZ therapist, and I will also be gaining financially from him. You are free to go to any other therapist if in case you want, right? So this also becomes the responsibility of the coach. This is actually the responsibility to the profession that the coach holds to share all such information with the client as well, right? Um, and of course, the overall responsibility to be to the society that you adhere to to do good uh, with your coaching practices. You avoid discrimination by maintaining fairness and equality in all the activities and operations, and to be aware of the cultural differences that is there, any kind of a discrimination that might happen in your by you by the basis of age, sex, race, gender, religion, anything. In case there is any sort of uh, discrimination that might happen, it's better to not take that coaching. At the same time, it's also to elevate ourselves as coaches to avoid this discrimination and to let go of any kind of a discrimination that we might unconsciously be holding on to. So that's about it from my side about the ethical standards. The on how, as a coach, as a responsible coach, as a person who is committed to coaching, how you can follow and demonstrate the ethical practices. I'll be sharing a link in the comment box in for you to go through the and it's a small quiz. You can take the quiz in 5 to 7 minutes to become aware as to how much you are aware of demonstrating ethical practices and how well you are demonstrating the ethical practices as well. So check out the link, take the test, and let me know in case you have any questions or any queries about ethical practices, about coaching, about how to become an ICF certified coach. Leave a comment in the leave a comment in the comment section, or message me directly, and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and have a nice day.